Good morning and welcome to the 2025 Ninth Circuit Judicial Conference. I am so delighted to see all of you here in Monterey, California. As you all know, my chambers are in Arizona, and today there's a 50-degree difference in temperature. And so I know that the folks from Arizona and Nevada are very pleased to be here. I would like to thank the Northern District of California for their wonderful hospitality last night. Chief Judge Seaborg and Clerk of the Court Mark Busby and the recusals, the Northern District House Band that performed remarkably last night. It was so much fun, and I want to thank them in particular for yesterday's warm welcome reception. It was a one-of-a-kind entertainment. Thank you so much. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to the Conference Executive Committee, led by Roger Townsend, a lawyer representative from the Western District of Washington, and also, and the program chair for this year, District Court Judge Michael Liberti, and all of the members of the Conference Planning Committee and Assistant Circuit Executive Robin Cole and her staff for their time over the past year to put together what I believe will be an excellent program for all of us to enjoy. We have a lot to look forward to through the lens of this year's theme, Floating on the Waves of Change. We will explore topics relevant to the Ninth Circuit, your local courts, and to the national judiciary, from the legal and practical realities of catastrophic event litigation, the complexities of intellectual property after artificial intelligence, to impacts of incarceration on the physical and mental health of individuals in custody, correctional staff, and the broader communities to which they return. We will hear experts explain the ways that they anticipate our legal landscape will continue to change and discuss the immediate and long-term implications of those changes for our bench and bar. Even beyond our esteemed panelists, we are honored to have so many wonderful guest speakers this year. Over the week, we will hear from Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Elena Kagan, Secretary Janet Napolitano, Founder and Executive Director of the Equal Justice Initiative, Brian Stevenson, and constitutional law experts, Paul Clement and Dean Erwin Chemerinsky, to name a few. We will also have a civics contest program and reception to which everyone is welcome to attend to congratulate the high school students with winning essays and video submissions on this year's topic, When Duty Calls, Why Exercising the Rights and Responsibilities of Citizenship is Important to Me. I hope you'll join us for that as well. This outstanding program would not be possible without the hard work of so many dedicated individuals. So many thanks to Sue Song and her team in the Circuit Executive's office. You'll see them all over helping us in support of this conference, and also how they have served each of the 15 districts in our circuit and to the Court of Appeals as we continue to administer justice in the West. Thank you, Sue, and your team. We really appreciate it. I would also like to acknowledge Molly Dreyer and her team and her continued valuable support as clerk of the court for the Court of Appeals. I hope and strongly encourage you to attend the opening ceremony this afternoon, during which we will award the Ninth Circuit Professionalism Award and the John D. Frank Award, and of course, introduce all of the new judicial officers circuit-wide. We will also honor, especially in a special presentation, the centennial of the United States Probation and Pretrial Services. Now, it is a pleasure and my honor to introduce to you Judge Robert Conrad, Jr., the Director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, which we commonly call the AO. And despite Judge Conrad's very busy schedule, he has graciously agreed to join us this year. Apart from his role as Director of the AO, Judge Conrad serves as a Senior District Court Judge from the Western District of North Carolina. Judge Conrad was appointed to the bench in June of 2005, where he served as Chief Judge from 2006 to 2013. Prior to his judicial career, he served for 15 years in the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Western District of North Carolina, and during that time served as the United States Attorney from 2001 to 2004. There are many challenges, as you all are aware, currently facing the courts: budgetary issues, judicial security, cybersecurity, ethical considerations, workplace issues. But we are grateful to have Judge Conrad as the leader of the AO, assisting us as we navigate these issues. Not only has he proven himself to be a dedicated partner to the courts, but he has also shown that he is dedicated to staying as best he can ahead of these challenging issues. So I will proceed to ask him a few questions. As we said, we're hoping you hear from all kinds of topics from the national perspective as well. So at this time, Judge Conrad, welcome, and thank you again for joining us. All of us are delighted to hear from you, to kind of hear what's happening in D.C. From the National Judiciary activities going on there. And it's important, I think, for some of them to at least get some idea regarding some of the major topics and areas that you're working on that are pressing and impacting the judiciary. And so first and foremost, and maybe this is just selfish on my part, but I think it impacts everybody here in this room, and that is, what is the state of the budget, and what do you anticipate will be happening in support of the judiciary?
So you want to start out with the fun topics. And with respect to budget news, GRIM is a fairly optimistic assessment of our budget, but I can focus on a couple of potential highlights. Our budget appropriations process is a Byzantine one that you have to do it for a little bit to believe it exists, but we as a separate branch of government are thrown into a subcommittee, an appropriations subcommittee, with other federal agencies, and that subcommittee is given a certain dollar amount to divide amongst themselves, and we participate in that fight for dollars, and so it has led over the last several years to a kind of grim forecast where at the end of the process we find ourselves in a flat freeze from the previous year, and that's a good result. 2025, we have found ourselves in a year-long CR situation, which is something that is intolerable over a long period of time. We're hoping, moving forward, to convince Congress that there are certain areas that we should be given some more dollars. One of the important areas, of course, is the federal defenders, who's the
some support for that.
So thank you all for clapping for this grim news. But as almost all of us know, I'm sure the work of a federal defender is a noble one, and they represent people who are experiencing, some of them, the worst experience of their life, and the attorney counselor steps in and walks them through a very difficult process. And they don't ask for much in terms of repayment, but our Byzantine system doesn't even fully compensate them on time for that work. And so in 2025, the federal defenders working for their clients between July and October will not be paid during that month because the fund is out of money.
That's the court judicially appointed attorneys, is that
Right,
correct? Uh-huh.
yes. And so we are hopeful that starting in fiscal year 2026, that there will be a lump sum amount of money provided to the judiciary to make those payments. And we apologize to federal defenders for panel attorneys within the defense community who have to wait that 3 months for payment, but hopefully help is on the way. We also believe that Congress has taken us seriously when we described our judicial security needs and our cybersecurity needs, which are very significant. Cybersecurity is an area where over time we've relied on an obsolete system, the CMECF system, that is no longer protectable against bad actors who want to hack into that system. And so district by district, courts are dealing with that situation and taking sealed documents off the system while they wait for us to come up with a system that actually protects documents. And we've asked for increased funding to accelerate the modernization of our case management system, and we hope Congress is receptive to that. Otherwise, we're going to be a branch that does more with less, as we have been for a number of years, despite the great effort of the appropriations people on our administrative office staff and Judge Amy St. Eve, who chairs the Budget Committee, and others who are tirelessly working to get an ear with the other branches in terms of funding.
Well, the other topic that I have to ask you about is and everybody here is aware of the coverage in the news about the increasing number of threats, lawsuits, and articles of impeachment directed at judges, as well as the heated political rhetoric taking place now. Can you sort of speak to what we in the judicial branch are doing or should be doing to respond to these significant challenges?
So yes, this is the second year that I've been the director. And in the first year, when people would describe what I would do, they would say it's like drinking water from a fire hose, and they were pretty accurate in that description. This year, the common phrase I hear all the time is that we live in interesting times. And that's very descriptive as well. At the end of the year, last year, Chief Justice Roberts wrote a year-end report in which he acknowledged the legitimacy of criticism of the courts in terms of free expression and in terms of keeping the court on its toes and doing its job with excellence, that were worthy subjects of criticism. What the Chief Justice said was intolerable, intended towards a reduction of independence of the courts, were acts of violence, intimidation, disinformation, and a refusal to follow lawful orders. he noted those 4 areas as areas of concern going forward. And we've dealt, it was a very prescient, I think, year-end report, and we've been dealing with those kind of issues. Some of the district court judges who have made some rulings adverse to the administration have found their faces on an activist judges board over at one of the houses of Congress. Some judges have received pizzas at their home, cash on delivery, an implicit threat that we know where you live. And then other judges have been impeached as a result of their rulings. And all of these efforts seem to be consistent with the concerns the Chief Justice expressed. And they're not just recent concerns. Over the last 5 years, the marshals have reported over 1,000 threats against judicial officers that required active investigation. And so it is a very serious concern for the judiciary. We have spent time and money in terms of efforts to get judicial judges information off the internet, to provide home security systems, and other efforts to protect the health and safety of judicial officers.
And there's a task force that was recently appointed of judges, is that correct?
Yes, there was. We formed a task force on judicial security and independence, and Judge Bradar from Maryland chairs that committee. Judge David Campbell has provided some of the intellectual firepower for the committee, writing primers on the Constitution and impeachment process and due process. And so a collection of judges across the country have gotten together with an effort to look internally to stand up the judiciary to meet the threats that it faces in terms of intimidation or perhaps, unfortunately, acts of violence. And that has been a well-received project, both for concerned judges to come together and talk about how to best stand up the judiciary, but also for judges who are under attack for their work, and seeing that the branch supports them as well.
And so judges who have been the subject of lawsuits by the current administration or have had articles of impeachment presented against them, is the AO providing support and services to those judges?
It is in a number of different ways. I know that I have spoken individually with every judge who has been impeached as a result of his...
who has articles of impeachment presented?
Yes, thank you. Who have been referred for impeachment,
yes.
Which is pretty unusual in our 250-year system. Obviously, the normal course is to appeal an adverse decision. This effort to impeach is something new and different. And so we engage early on. Our general counsel has been very proactive in talking with individual judges about their litigation needs and expectations and what might be provided for by the administrative office in terms of reimbursement. So the whole goal is not in any way to engage substantively with the cases that judges work on, but to provide a unified one branch kind of message to individual judges.
Thank you. I think there may have been some disappointment at the end of last year when legislation to add more federal judgeships ultimately came up short of enactment. Can you give us an update on where the judiciary stands currently with respect to efforts to secure additional judgeships?
Sure, that was a really painful moment. The judges bill had passed unanimously in in the Senate, and then even after the election, there was bipartisan approval in the House. But unfortunately, on Christmas Eve, it was vetoed, and so it went down in flames, but only to be resurrected in the spring. There is now a new judge's bill that is consistent with the Judicial Resources Committee finding of the need for new judges. It's similar in concept to the old one that was structured over a 10-year period of time where different administrations would have the potential to nominate a number of judges. And it's a very strong bipartisan support, and it has passed through a committee of the House and is working its way forward. And we hope that over time it will see success, and 60 plus new judges will be added to our ranks.
And before I ask you about some of the positive, if there are any positive initiatives and news that you might be able to give, I wanted to take a moment to see if you had any comment regarding the Federal Judicial Center and changes happening there, and mostly to thank the outgoing director, John Cook, and I know he's present here today.
So I would love to embarrass John and make him stand up briefly.
John, are you here?
I'm sure your story is a lot like mine. 20 years ago, when I was confirmed as a federal judge, I went to baby judge school that was developed by John Cook. And then midway in my career, I went to mid-career school put on by John Cook. When I was chief judge, I went to chief judge orientation put on by John Cook. And he has served this branch quietly, but so effectively for over 20 years. And he served his country for more than 20 years in the Judge Advocacy General program, retiring as a brigadier general. John Cook is an amazing man. We've been blessed to have him as part of our judicial family. I wouldn't mind if you gave him another round of applause.
And I just would like to echo those sentiments, as well as in the largest circuit in the country. We've benefited the most from those educational programs, from those orientation programs, and we sincerely thank you, John, for your years of really wonderful service and leadership. Thank you very much. Let me ask you, in the time we have remaining, are there any particular initiatives, maybe positive, that you want to share that's going on right now on a national level?
So, one of the areas that I think is an area of success of the judicial branch is in the area of workplace conduct. About 8 years ago, the Chief Justice formed a workplace conduct working group to look at this very important issue in the judiciary and to come up with recommendations for us to be a better employer, a safe place to work, and a happy place to work. And I have had the privilege of working with Ninth Circuit colleagues and other colleagues across the country looking at the workplace conduct issue. And one of the things that has recently come out was the first ever workplace conduct survey conducted by the Federal Judicial Center. Again, kudos to John Cook. And that survey was a very revealing one. It was filled out by over 50% of our employees. And what we learned from that survey is just a very high number of employees, over 90%, are happy in their jobs, would recommend their job to family and friends, would recommend their place of employment to others. Very high number of people, over 90%, have never experienced an incident of workplace misconduct. And so it was very rewarding to see some objective evidence of the efforts by this branch to be an exemplary workplace. The survey also pointed out areas where we need to get better. There are some employees that are reluctant to use the EDR process to voice complaints. There are other employees who are concerned about retaliation. And we need to continue to get better. But my sense is that the judiciary is a wonderful place for people to work in, that employees find their jobs fulfilling. And so that, to me, you don't hear that kind of news from some people on the other side of the street in terms of the other branches politically. You don't hear that often in the media. But I've had a chance firsthand to see the sincerity and diligence of judges and other court leaders tackling this problem. And then we all see firsthand some evidence of the fruits of those efforts. And so I would see the workplace conduct area in the Ninth Circuit for sure and across the country as being one of the areas where we're not perfect. We have a journey that we're on. It's a journey, not a destination, but we're moving in the right direction in a way that makes me proud of being a member of the judicial branch.
Thank you for that. I know that Judge Margaret McEwen leads our workplace, and I know she's on your national committee and leads in a lot of those areas. We appreciate her work on this important area and appreciate the positive developments reflected in that survey. As I stated at the beginning, we'll be hearing a lot about a lot of issues on the legal front from local perspective and from a circuit perspective. But I wanted you to hear, as we have traditionally on these morning sessions before getting the Supreme Court review, hear a little bit from the national perspective from the person who's directly in charge, and that's Judge Conrad. Judge Conrad and I go way back. We were both in the Department of Justice in the late 90s when Janet Reno was the Attorney General, and I remember her speaking so highly and complimentary of Judge Conrad when he was a federal prosecutor then, and entrusted him with a very important project because of his moderate abilities to reach across both sides and to think about issues in a really significantly sensitive way, but also very effective. And she was very complimentary of his leadership then, as I am complimentary of his leadership now. So we really want to appreciate if you'll help me in giving a round of applause to Judge Conrad.
Thank you.